I think I've gone behind the bar and getting the microphone off the MC DJ at the time, and I'm sort of on the mic and I'm giving it a few lyrics, and what am I doing? Do you know what I mean? But it's all part and parcel and a bit of fun, and you know.
So, welcome to Talk of the X-Town, the channel where I'll meet with ex-Ipswich Town players, talking everything ITFC. Please welcome my next guest, who played for Ipswich as a youth player before returning twice throughout his career. Known for his goals in midfield and currently the manager of National League North team Spennymoor Town FC. Please welcome my guest, Tommy Miller. Evening.
Good evening. How are you doing? All right?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It's chucking it down up here, so I've been to the beach all day today with the dog and got soaked. So I'm now back in the house, nice and dry.
Yeah, well, it's not much nicer down here, unfortunately. So, well,
yeah,
England as it is.
Mere weather, eh? Mere weather.
Excellent. So, I'll crack on straight with the questions then. So, what was the pivotal reason why you come to town as a youngster?
I just got a feel for the place. You know, there was a couple of lads came down from the northeast. Got well looked after when I came down. Just got a good feel for the place. There was a couple of other clubs who were interested in signing me on schoolboy forms, but it felt right to sign for Ipswich and give it a right go, even though it was 260 miles away from home.
Yeah, fair. And then I guess what then sort of happened before you then returned to Ipswich again for the second out of the third time?
Yeah, obviously got released as a schoolboy, devastated. I remember the train journey back to the northeast and heartbroken really, because I thought my dream was over, and then ended up going to Hartlepool, did my YTS there for 2 years, 4 years professional, and then Ipswich came knocking, as did a couple of other clubs, but I felt I had unfinished business and was desperate to get back to Ipswich. Yeah,
no, that's fair. And then what sort of led to you then coming back for the third and final time then?
Yeah, well, my contract was coming to an end at Sunderland. Ipswich came in. There was a couple of other clubs, Leeds, Preston were showing an interest. But obviously, Jim was the manager at Ipswich at the time, so he was a big factor in me going back. And obviously, I knew the place. I had good friends down there from my time before. And I just wanted to get back and help Jim and try and get the club out of the league and up to the Premiership.
Yeah, talking to Jim as well, like, what was he like as a player versus sort of manager? How did it go from working with him to working for him, should I say?
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult at first, you know, because he's gone from transition to being your mate, really, as a player. And then obviously he's going to a manager, so he's got to change, you know, things have to change. You know, he's treating you slightly different. You know, he's obviously at the end of the day, he's wanting 3 points on a Saturday, which is what the players wanted as well. But he's obviously not your mate as such, if that makes sense. So yeah, you're trying your best for him, you know, and there was times in training where he'd join in and still want to play because he was that passionate about football. You know, he loved playing the game, and obviously he loved managing the game. He just ate, slept and drank football.
Yeah, definitely. I think that showed as a fan as well, you know, from seeing him play on the pitch to being on the sidelines. He seemed as passionate on the sidelines as he was playing. So that was always a good draw for the fans, I suppose, with him being manager. I remember being season ticket holder there when he first then become manager straight away. And probably from the sidelines, he looked as passionate and scary on the sidelines as he was on the pitch, I suppose. So
absolutely, you know, he wore his heart on his sleeve, didn't he? And you mentioned it there. That's how he played as well. You know, demanding, but demanding on himself as well. You know, as well as his teammates, he had high standards. And if you didn't follow them or you slipped out a gear, really, he was the first one to tell you. And that was as a player and as a manager. Great fella, great guy. Just unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end, really, which was a shame.
No, definitely. And I think, if I remember rightly, it was similar sort of time where you left town to when he left town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was new owners coming in. You know, and I think Jim was under a bit of pressure to finish in the playoffs. There was all talk about Roy Keane possibly coming in, and unfortunately we didn't make the playoffs, and I think there was 3 games left, and Jim got moved on, which was pretty harsh. I think given the sort of the service and the career he gave to Ipswich Town, I thought they could have maybe let him finish the season. But that's football, new owners come in, they wanted their own man in. They obviously let Roy have the final 3 games to have a good look at their squad, assess what he needed. And then obviously Roy was given an open checkbook really to bring who he wanted in that summer after.
No, definitely. And I think looking back now, like we were talking before we sort of started, it's if to have someone like Jim with the potential of the new owners, money and everything else might have been a different story sort of 15 years down the line, potentially.
That's right. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing in football. But if Jim was given a little bit of money to spend, or, certainly an opportunity with the new owners, I'm sure he'd have done well, and I'm sure he'd have gotten Ipswich a lot closer to than what past managers have. But listen, like I said, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and we can all look back and say, what if that happened, and could this have happened? It didn't, and you move on, and it's just one of them things. But Jim's obviously an Ipswich Town legend on the field and off the field, not a great guy.
No, definitely. And sort of looking back to your sort of final time at Town, where, like we said, Jim left and then Roy comes in. Was it sort of a potential coincidental time for you to be leaving with Roy coming in, or?
It was. I mean, I spoke to Jim around about March time because I knew my contract was coming towards an end, and normally at a club you sort of get an indication whether you're going to be staying or going in good time before the season finishes. And Jim more or less said to us, listen, if we don't get in the playoffs, I'll be moving on. I won't be here. And he just more or less said to me, listen, if you can sort yourself out and you can get another club for next season, then I'm not going to stand in your way. So from a personal point of view, it was something I was looking to do really, because obviously I needed security of where I was going to be. And Sheffield Wednesday came in, and I'd spoke to them before the season finished, and they were desperate to sign me, which was pleasing from a player's point of view because I felt wanted.
Yeah.
And then it worked out well because Roy came in, and obviously my experience with Roy at Sunderland, I knew that I wouldn't be getting offered anything really, and that it was time to move on. Roy would, like I say, have money to spend. He'd want to bring his own players in, and I was one of the many who was out of contract who would move on. Yeah,
definitely. It was that, unfortunately, wasn't it? With a new era, a new manager, and things like that does tend to, especially if they've been given like I said, an open checkbook to crack on and things, which potentially was the start to the downfall of the club, unfortunately, by the looks of things, if you look back.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, when managers come in, they want to bring their own players in. Like I said earlier, that it was a similar thing to Sunderland. When I was in the treatment room at the time, when he came to Sunderland, and he brought 4 players in the first week, and I think 3 of them were midfielders, and I found it hard to sort of get in, no matter how well I did in training or reserve games. It was never really an opportunity I got, which was one of them things. And obviously, him coming to Ipswich, he wanted to put his own stamp on it, spend money, bring players in, and that's football. There's no hard feelings. There was no fallout or anything like that, and you move on in football. And it's just unfortunate that, like I said, the managers that have come on since Jim and stuff like that, Ipswich just seem to have been on a downward spiral, which is such a shame.
Yeah, definitely. And, probably seeing from your personal perspective, you've got 2 of your former clubs in League One with Ipswich and Sunderland. What's your sort of take on that? Disaster for both clubs.
2 massive clubs having big problems really. Obviously now being took over by new owners, you're hoping that it's going to start and turn, and you can't get any lower. Sunderland are obviously in a very good position at the minute, and going to be in the playoffs, and hopefully they can get up and get into the championship. Whereas Ipswich, the new owners have come in. Paul Cook hasn't really hit the ground running. smashing bloke as well, great bloke, very passionate, knows his football, and he's inherited a squad which are underperforming week after week, and he's got a lot of players there, and he'll know more than anybody that what he's got to do in the summer. He knows that there'll be a big clear out. He'll identify the players he wants to get in, and I'm sure he'll have a right go next season in getting the club back up to where they belong, because the first thing I said there, 2 massive clubs in League One. It's not the first time, you know, we've seen other clubs in that league who, the Leedses, the Notts Forest, the Sheffield Wednesdays, and who look like they might go down again. Yeah. But let's hope there's better times ahead, certainly for Ipswich.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems that you're still well equipped with knowledge of your previous clubs and sort of keep an idea of what's going on with them and things. Do you keep in contact with any of the guys still at Town?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of changes players-wise, but Gary Roberts is a good friend of mine. You know, I spent a lot of time with Robbo at Ipswich, Huddersfield, Swindon. You know, so we've played at 3 clubs together, and we obviously wished him well before he went into Ipswich. And an up and coming coach, you know, learning the ropes, and he's working with Paul Cooper, who's a good friend of his, and I'm sure they'll enjoy the challenge next season in getting Ipswich up the league. There's Brian Clew still there, you know, staff-wise. Nashy's still there, Jared Nash. I don't really speak to, but obviously they're there if I need to. But from a player's point of view, there's been lots and lots of changes, and hopefully, like I said, they can get out of the league and get back to where they belong. Yeah,
definitely. I think that's all any of the players, the staff, and everyone, and the fans want. Really, you know, it was likely to happen with the squad that we had when we were in the Championship. Unfortunately, you could just see it going, and the last couple of seasons, you know, with COVID and that, it sort of affected performance-wise and changing the managers and everything as is football, unfortunately. So who knows? Hopefully next season will be a bit better for us. So who knows?
It can't get any worse. Surely, it can't get any worse.
Yeah, definitely not. But thinking back to your time specifically at Town, was there anything that, be it training, nights out, or anything like that, like a funny moment that sticks in your mind?
We had lots of good memories. You know, we had lots of good times. We had some good trips away as well. Tenerife. I remember we were playing QPR away, and we were going to Tenerife the next day. I think we'd had a break. We weren't playing for about 10 days, and it was in January. You know, we were flying high in the league, and Joe Roll was planning on taking us away for a little break. He'd done it before in the past with other clubs he'd managed, and he just felt it was a good idea, get us away, a little bit of a break, let our hairs down a little bit, but also train as well while we were there. You know, a little bit of training on the beach, a bit of warm weather training, as they say. And it was half time against QPR Loftus Road, and we were 2-0 down. Well, you can imagine the dressing room went up. And it was, if you think you're going to Tenerife, another thing coming, you know, we don't win this game and you'll be going nowhere. And I think we definitely won the game. We won 4-2, you know, massive turnaround in the second half. So that was obviously, and that was a great trip. You know, we had a very good trip. I think Joe, more or less, we landed and he said, listen, I don't want to see you guys till, I think it was the Monday afternoon, and this was Sunday afternoon when we left. So free, get yourself out, have a good drink, you know, look after yourself, you know, don't do anything silly, but sort of go and enjoy yourself. And we did, you know, we had some great times over there, and we had good nights out as well back in Ipswich. And we used to go to London quite a bit. You know, there was a squad of us that went to London on Tuesday night, get the train down after training and come back on the night. But some good memories, you know, there's some good characters, and it all builds team spirit. You know, I'm not indicating for 1 minute that there was a drinking culture at the club. You do it at the right times. As long as you do it at the right times, it goes a long way. You know, you get a good set of lads together. You want to play for each other. You want to pull together, and team spirit is massive in football.
Yeah, definitely, and as is in any working environment, isn't it? Having a good team spirit.
Absolutely.
You know, and keeping that togetherness there, really to drive to work together, because, you know, like I said, you're working with each other day in, day out. You want to make sure that you're having a good time with everyone that you're working with.
Yeah, and I think in Tenerife, I think I was MC one of the nights in one of the clubs, one of the bars.
Okay.
I think I've gone behind the bar and getting the microphone off the MC DJ at the time, and I'm sort of on the mic and I'm giving it a few lyrics, and I what am I doing? Do you know what I mean? But it's all part and parcel and a bit of fun, and there was other stories which I won't go into, but good set of lads and like I say, good team spirit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you mentioned sort of saying about a few of the guys being more potentially joker, laugher. Who was the team joker when you were there? Be it any of the
Jim like a laugh, Jim Magilton, Kevin Horlock. He was a funny guy. Darren Curry. There was that many. John McGreal, Chris Macon from obviously me first time or my second time as such. Marcus Stewart. And then you had the mad Scandinavians, Herman Haridason, who would just want to fight you on a night out. He'd sort of playful fighting. He'd punch you and he'd nip you, but it hurt. It did hurt. And so there was good characters, throughout my time at Ipswich. What you'll find was I never ever sort of was in the dressing room and I never ever thought, don't like him, he's a bit of a tool or a toss. Do you know what I mean? We had a good set of lads, and it gets you a long way. It gets you a long way, and that was built from the manager as well, bringing the right characters in to the football club, and it was good. Just unfortunate we didn't get to the Premier League when we should have done. The season where we sort of tailed off. We missed Big Shefky Coochie in a couple of the home games against Watford and QPR. Didn't pick the points up, and unfortunately we got beat off West Ham for the second year on the bounce in the playoffs, which was devastating really, because we should have cruised that league.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember being in the North Stand watching those playoff games against West Ham, and after the season that I'd watched, should have been automatic, and then going against West Ham, always really good games against them throughout history, and yeah, how it must have been, an exceptionally difficult circumstance to be in when you've gone through playoffs, you've won some other playoffs as well, haven't you? You've got promoted with other teams, and just not succeeded with Town, unfortunately.
No, and especially playing in that team as well, because it was so enjoyable. Week in, week out, we would turn up, and from a personal point of view, I was given a license to get forward. Free rein. The shackles were off. You get yourself forward. You get in the box. You score goals, and such an enjoyable time. And I think that's how the team played. If the opposition scored 3 or 4, we'd score 5 or 6. We certainly were free flowing attacking football. We had goals in us: Shefky, Darren Bent, Pablo Canago, obviously myself chipping in with a few, Jim chipping in with a few, Ian Westlake chipping in with a few, Darren Curry. We had people in there who could score goals, and it was such a shame the way it ended, because you look back and you think we should have got there, and it was devastating really how it all ended.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, at 2 different points when you've been at Town, when you come back as, as an adult rather than a schoolboy, you'd signed just before Town got relegated from the Premier League, and then not been able to then get back into the Premier League through the playoffs. That must have been, especially in the Premier League, you've played in some European games as well. It must be difficult to see Town get relegated after such a decent season beforehand.
Absolutely. I signed. The team had just finished 4th or 5th in the Premier League, didn't they? Qualified for Europe. Fantastic season. And then coming into the second season in the Premier League, you obviously wanted to maintain that. And this, certainly what happened was we obviously got relegated, which was a nightmare scenario. Second season syndrome, as they call it. We didn't push on. People who we signed maybe didn't step up to the mark. And you got relegated, and then obviously the first season back in the Championship, you wanted to bounce back as quickly as possible, and it just didn't happen. And then you had administration as well, which loomed, which came in, and which affected obviously the playing staff and all the other staff involved with the club, people losing jobs, and it was a tough time and tricky time for Ipswich.
Yeah, definitely, and it was a weird one, as a fan. You're seeing your team that you love get relegated, still in Europe from fair play and things like that, and at Portman Road, seeing it packed out, seeing these big teams come to Portman Road with Europe and things, but then the following week. No disrespect to other teams, but you're playing against a team that's probably only got 5,000-6,000 fans in their ground and things like that in the Championship. So it's one of those, but probably even more so now. It's a weird one, unfortunately, as a Town fan, and unfortunately, if only to have
it is, and them European nights take some beating. Under the lights on a Tuesday night, was it, or a Wednesday night, whatever it may be, and you've got a full house. Special times, great times, and very good memories.
Definitely, as I say, with the two teams that are obviously now in League One, two massive fan bases. Obviously, Sunderland a bit more than what Town's got in terms of that. Any sort of stand-up moments with the fans, chants or anything like that for you when you're at Town?
I think just the celebrations, the sort of crazy celebrations I used to do. I spent a lot of time with Shefke. We used to play snooker a lot at Riley's and Bentley as well, and obviously Jim Magilton and Pablo Canago, some good lads. And we used to get on about celebrations, and it was just crazy, you're going over the corner flags and you're pretending they're a snooker queue and all sorts of stuff, the aeroplane, and then you have Big Shefke doing the big swan dive, and it's like, touching back to what I said earlier, just a great time to be an Ipswich player and very good memories, great spirit, great lads, and great camaraderie.
And definitely, like I remember, being a youngster going to Playford Road and things like that, doing goalkeeper training there as a youngster and things, and seeing some of you guys there as well, and you always saw that sort of family orientation within the club and things like that, which is always a nice positive. I think I've asked this every time I've done this though, just to be see if anything did happen behind the scenes. Was there anybody you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of whilst you were there?
No, I think we were all pretty together. There was a couple of incidents in training. I think Pablo had a bit of an incident with Marcus Stewart back in the day where there was a bit of a off the ball challenge, which didn't end well. But I mean, there's no real malice in it as such. But no, I wouldn't say there was any training ground skulls from what I can remember. My memory's not great, if I'm honest with you. But we all just seemed to get on. We were all pulling in the right direction, and I think that's why we come knocking on the door certainly a few times in the Championship to get back up, because we all were pulling in the right direction.
Yeah, fair. I think it's always a difficult question to sort of answer. You never know who you might run back into at any point. Now, as a manager yourself, you don't want to put any bad things in there story wise, which is fair.
Don't want to stitch anyone up. I think you're right, mate. Yeah, you're right.
But what brought you to actually go into the coaching side, for different teams in the last few years?
Yeah, it was something I always wanted to do, even from a younger age, 27, 28. I looked at doing my coaching badges. I was at Swindon and got an opportunity to take the team as a player manager when Paolo Di Canio walked out, which me and the lad Darren Ward took for 3 games, I think it was. But we were both playing in the team at the time, and we were both not ready to sort of hang our boots up. We both still had a lot to offer. We went to see the chairman at the time and just said, listen, this is not for us. We need someone else to come in. So they brought someone else in. And from a personal point of view, I wasn't ready. I was still going through the badges and such, and I was still learning the ropes. And then as the years have gone on and the legs started to go a little bit, and I wasn't getting the goals and I wasn't getting up the field as much, and I was sitting a bit deep. I got to 600 games and I picked up a couple of injuries along the way, muscle tears and stuff like that. And I just thought that's a sign telling me, it's time to sort of step aside and go into coaching, which is what I enjoy doing. I'm at a fantastic club in Spennymoor Town, which I've been assistant manager for 4 or 5 seasons, and now I'm manager. So I'm looking forward to the new season in August. It's a fantastic league, very competitive. Got some good clubs in there, and I'm enjoying it. I'm sort of working my way back up the ladder, really, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's very sort of early days as your new team at Spennymoor as the manager yourself. But I think I've asked a couple of other people this as well. But would you ever come back to town as a manager, or would
definitely?
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I look at all my old clubs, and you always have a special connection with them. Certainly, some more so than others, and because I've been at Ipswich a few times and had a good relationship with the fans and enjoyed living down there, you'd be wrong to sort of rule it out and say never. Of course, one day you'd want to come back. But I love it at Spennymoor. I'm learning my ropes. I've got a fantastic chairman. The club is going in the right direction, believe me. There's things going on behind the scenes all the time, and our ambition is to get into the Football League, and hopefully one day we might end up playing Ipswich. You never know. But we will see it in the future. But yeah, certainly Ipswich is a club close to my heart, and if the opportunity came, then I'd be foolish not to. You know what I mean? It's a great club.
Yeah, definitely. I think even you joking saying that there's potential that they might play at some point. If Ipswich are carrying on the way they are, and your direction, it could be in the next couple of seasons. But
you never know. You never know what's around the corner, do you? You never know what's around the corner.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully not in Ipswich's stead, anyway.
yeah. Might get you in the cup. You never know.
Exactly. That's the main thing, isn't it? There's another question I sort of proposed to everyone. Every sort of club potentially has like an unsung hero that was there at the time, be it not the manager or another player. Does anyone sort of stick out when you were at Town for the different times, be it another coach or staff member or groundsman?
I think at Ipswich there was special people behind the scenes, and Edwina, who used to work on reception, fantastic service. I think she left, was it last year or the year before? And I can't remember how long she'd been there in total, but obviously a long, long time, and just a lovely sort of welcome when you walked into the building. A big smile on her face, and very sort of accommodating, and would help you out with anything. Special woman. And then up at the training ground, you had Dick, who was the caretaker, who sadly passed away. I think was it last year? Great bloke. Again, do anything for you. He used to walk around the training ground if you needed any help, or he would get stuff out of the cupboard for you, or he would tidy things up. And then you had Ken Goody, who was an under-16 manager when I was there as a schoolboy. Who he says he didn't, but I think it had something to do with me getting released. So when I returned in 2001, he was obviously still at the club, and as I sort of pulled up in my car, I think I might have had a BMW or something at the time, and he sort of came out and he said, "I knew you'd be a good player." He said, "I knew you'd be a good player," and he sort of shook my hand and he went, "I got you that car, didn't I? I got you that car." But good bloke, special people, and a lot of people behind the scenes at Ipswich, do unbelievably well, and I think Sally as well still there, up at the training ground. Again, good woman, anything you want, they just want to help you, and it's great that certainly Sally's still there. Others have moved on, unfortunately, but we're all getting older. But good memories with them, and they're not forgotten people like that.
No, definitely, and I think that's a nice ethos, that I'd like to think that Ipswich have got in comparison to potentially some bigger clubs where, I sort of mentioned it before, where you might have players that have their headphones in from the moment they're walking into the ground to play in, and then the rest of the time they're sort of in that zone of not really paying attention to anybody else, and you only sort of see those key sort of nice moments maybe on Match of the Day or things like that with fans and things, whereas I'd like to think that you sort of see that a bit more as you sort of drop down the leagues and things like that. And I'm sure probably at Spennymoor as well, there's some fans and things like that probably stick out in your mind already.
There is special people who make things work behind the scenes. And just touching back to Ipswich, I mean, it's always been known as a family club. You get well looked after, and that comes from the supporters as well. They want you to do well. They're desperate for you to do well, and they'll give you every opportunity and every chance to do well. And I think that goes back from certainly years and years before I was at the club, and the Cobbolds, and then obviously the Bobby Robsons, and they instilled special traits and special feelings at that football club, and it's carried on over the years, and then with sort of John Lyle and then George Burley, and good traits, and a really well-respected club, which a lot of people from outside look at and think, yeah, that club is a special club, good family club.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like you've definitely got the knowledge there of town as well. So, you know, any pub quiz, you're sorted.
Yeah, I've got a good idea. Yeah, I've got a good idea of things. Good idea.
Yeah, definitely. But say you were still at playing age, you were fit and fine, you were in the middle of the park, popping in your goals like you were doing. Who would you have around you as your striking pair or your defensive pair behind you?
Yeah, I've been asked this a few times, and sort of best team I played with, and Ipswich best players and stuff like that. And as a striking pair, I couldn't pick, because obviously you had Darren Bent, Shefki Kuchi, and Pablo Canago. So you'd have to play the three of them. Yeah. Pablo was obviously the best I think I've played with in my whole career, not just at Ipswich. The link we had together, we both signed at the same time, left at the same time, came back at the same time when Jim brought us back. And we just sort of struck up an understanding straight away. You know, I'd come from Hartlepool, which he'd never heard of. He'd come from in Spain, where he just won the under-18s World Cup, I think, where he's playing with Xavi, Iniesta. And he's sort of looking at me thinking, who is this? You know, and it's like, but we got on really well. And like I said, I didn't even have to look. I knew where he was on the field. I would play balls around the corner and over my head, and he was there, and he would give them back and little 1-2s, and just a great understanding with him. And then you had Darren Bent, who was absolutely rapid, you know, a young lad breaking through. Anything over the top he would get onto, and 9 times out of 10 he would put it in the back of the net, or he would pull it back for himself to score. And then you had Big Shefki, who was an absolute monster, a beast of a player, and when he was in full floor, he took some stopping. You know, he was an absolute machine. I think he's the only lad I've seen defend a corner, headed away from the near post, and actually get on the end of his own clearance, because he's charging up the field, and that was him. You know, so them three as a forward line would take some stopping, and obviously had plenty of goals in them, a lot of goals. Yeah,
definitely. I think you would, for me, I would say, in my era, definitely of watching Town, they'd be up there as a front three, definitely with Sheffield. Like you said, you wouldn't want to be anywhere near him if he started sprinting. I'm sure that the training ground as well.
He used to just steamroll there. He used to just run through people. Do you know what I mean? In terms of skill and stuff like that, he wasn't the most technical of players, and he'll tell you that. But in terms of what he gave to the team, and just powerful, so strong, and like you say, great to have on your team.
No, definitely. And I think looking back at that era as well, quite a few guys are now in management around the world as well, isn't there? You got Pablo, you've got Shefki, you. I'm trying to think of most of the team is still within football, which is great. You know, there's obviously that sort of ethos to continue within football in some sort of nature. The likes of obviously like Matty Holland and things as well that are commentating and presenting and things. It's great to see, you know, especially as a child, you know, watching the team and things like that, to then look back and see all the players that I'd watch as a younger Town fan, to then see them on the telly or coming back to Portman Road and things like that. So
yeah, that's right. You know, they've obviously moved on to listening. Management is not for everybody. Yeah. You know, and coaching's not for everybody. And maybe Matty Holland might have had a few chances along the way, and maybe he's going to that side of it. But he enjoys the media work. You know, he comes across very well on the TV and the radio. Speaks well. You know, you've got Bentley, who's on Talk Sport a lot. He's on the TV on Sky Sports. You know, and he comes across very well, knows his stuff. And then you've got a few lads who've dabbled in management with Shefki, Pablo. I know is doing the youths over in Spain as well. Some youth team who I speak to quite a lot, and Shefki I speak to quite a lot. Jim's obviously tried his hand at it and still involved in Ireland.
Yeah.
So Darren Curry, he's had a go at it and should never have left Barnet, should never have been sacked. Obviously, I think financial stuff and things along the way, and I'm sure he'll get back into the game. So it's good to see lads who you've played with. John McGreal's another one.
Yep.
Very harsh to have been let go by Colchester, and I'm sure he'll be back involved very soon. So it's good to see lads involved and having a go at it, because they have lots of stuff to offer, lots of things to offer to the game.
No, definitely, and I think like I said, it's good to see that, especially because you think, well, they were decent at the time for Town and different clubs and things, so you'd only want to wish them well as a coach or whatever else they're doing, really, which is always nice to see.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were at Portman Road?
Oh, that is a good question. The last time I was at Portman Road was the last time I played, I think, believe it or not. I'm trying to think when it was Richard Nail's testimonial. Okay. I don't know whether I played after that, though. I can't remember the year, if I'm honest with you. I think I might have come back to Ipswich after that, because it might have been in between when I was at Sunderland. I'm not sure. So no, I haven't had the chance to get back, really, and I'm desperate to come back. I'm actually part of the Kevin Beattie Foundation, which is I'm on the trustees, one of the trustees there, so we're looking at trying to sort out events throughout the year. There's going to be a charity game in September, which I'm looking forward to being part of it. I'm sure we'll have some good players there, from back in the day. So hopefully that game will be at Portman Road. Fingers crossed. And but no, off the top of my head, it's been a long time. Back at Portman Road, it certainly has.
Yeah, definitely. Well, even as a fan, obviously the last 12 months.
There's not many being back, has there? Let's be honest. Yeah, for a while.
I guess probably the last question: as a player, which was your favourite manager to work under?
I think you take bits from everyone who you played under, and I enjoyed some good times under a lot of managers. At Ipswich, I owe George Burley a lot for signing me. Giving me the opportunity. He's picked up a lad who's playing in Division 3 for Hartlepool United. Not many Premier League teams would entertain that. Certainly not in this day and age.
Yeah.
But he saw something in me. The scout obviously done his homework as well and put reports in, and George made the decision to sign me. So I owe George a lot, and he gave me my debut in the Premier League and obviously in Europe as well. And I owe him a lot. And a funny story, actually, I was running where I live. I do a lot of running. Long distance running outside, and obviously at the gym as well on the treadmill. And I was doing a run around where I live about 3 months ago. And as I'm coming up the hill, up the bank, I see this fella with like a Newcastle coat on with a hood up and with a dog. And he's sort of hobbling up the hill, sort of a little bit of a limp. So it's a bit strange. And I looked, and as I've gone past him, I've sort of turned around and looked again, and I hear this Scottish voice going, "Tommy, Tommy." And I didn't want to stop, because I was actually flying, to be fair, and I was looking at a good time for me for 10k. So as I've got to the top of the hill, I'm thinking, surely that wasn't George Burley. I thought, what's he doing around here? One, why's he got a Newcastle coat on? And then it suddenly came to me that his son-in-law is Chris Hogg, who was at Ipswich as well back in the day. Then he went to Hibs, and he's married to George's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Now, obviously, I found out since that they're living on the same place as me, George's daughter and our husband, Chris Hogg. Right. So obviously George is up and around this area, and I've bumped into him a few times now and had a good conversation with him. So we're looking forward to catching up, and maybe he's having a game of golf where I live. But it's strange how things sort of work out and pan out. But so George, for giving me the opportunity, but Joe Royle, 100%. In terms of enjoying my football. Good times for me, scoring goals, and really in a good football team. And you've got to give it to Joe Royle. His man management was second to none. He knew when you needed telling, but he was very relaxed. And he had a good assistant manager in Willie Donaghy, and they were chalk and cheese, which I think is the right connection. Certainly, Willie was very serious, but a very, very good coach. And then Joe would oversee things, and he would drive around in his golf buggy. at Playford Road, and he would sort of get off and he would sort of point out a few little pointers, and then he'd get back on his golf buggy and he'd have a little drive around to see what was going on. I mean, but them two as a partnership, certainly, yeah, Joe's definitely the best I've played under in my whole career, never mind just Ipswich.
Yeah, and from other players as well, couldn't speak any higher of Joe Royal, really, because, yeah, even from a fan, you see that passion there, and what else do you want to hear from a fan's perspective? If Town score 5, if they score 4, who cares? That's
yeah. Yeah. It was entertaining, certainly, wasn't it? It was entertaining.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's something that hopefully in the coming seasons Town will get back to, having entertaining, good football, and actually getting back to where they belong, higher up in the divisions, really.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, I think Ipswich fans will take just winning a game, really. I think at the minute, certainly some wins. It's been, like I say, a nightmare couple of seasons for them. But I'm sure Paul Coote will get it right. He's a proven manager. He gets teams playing the right way, and I'm sure he'll have players identified who he wants to bring to the football club, and the new owners will back him. And I'm sure he'll get the team playing the right way, but the winning way, which is the most important thing. 3 points on a Saturday is all that matters.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully that will happen for yourself at Spennymoor as well. Having Mr. Burley around, that might give you some key pointers maybe for next season. Who knows? Absolutely.
I'm going to get into a game, actually. I'll get into a game, and he'd keep me right. Guys like that, with his experience, I'm fortunate to have, like I said, played under some great managers, and I'm not afraid to ring them and ask for guidance, ask for help, because they've been there, done it, wore the T-shirt, and they have the knowledge, experience, and I'll certainly be ringing them if I need any help.
No, definitely. And probably maybe one exception in Mr. Keane, potentially.
I don't think he'd answer the phone, if I'm honest with you. He'll say it himself. I don't think he's got many mates. I mean, he used to go on about people being on the TV and stuff. Jesus Christ, now, if you watch the TV now, he's on it all the time.
Yep.
So it's mad how things work out. And like I say, he used to blast people and hammer people. They've been on the TV, you can't get them off the telly. And every Sunday I see Roy's face. But he's good to watch, he's good entertainment, I'll give him that. He's good for TV.
Yeah, definitely. Potentially just not in other aspects of footballing life, potentially.
He's a legend as a player, don't get me wrong. What a player.
Well, thank you for being my next guest on Talk of the X-Town, and you have a good evening.
Thanks very much, appreciate it. Cheers.
Catch you later.